Hi everyone, my name is Austin Zollner and this is my EdLaw 850 introduction. So, some teaching basics about me. I am 25 years old. I just finished my third year of teaching 6th grade math and social studies in Moorhead, Minnesota. It's a suburban city just across the river from Fargo, North Dakota. It is a Title I school. The most spoken language is English, followed by Kurdish. There's a very large Kurdish community living in Moorhead. We graduate about 550 to 600 per year, and our class sizes for a gen ed classroom are about 28 to 30. A little bit more personal stuff about me outside of teaching. I ran cross country, indoor and outdoor track in high school and college. It was Gustavus Adolphus College, just a small private school in southern Minnesota. One other thing that I'm super passionate about is personal finance, financial independence, and retire early. It's known as the FIRE movement. So if you just Googled FIRE movement, you would find so many awesome resources about that. And with that in mind, I've slowly sort of turned myself into a teacher as well as a financial coach on top of that. I've created a blog and social media sites to promote my services and sort of helping people figure out at what age can they retire, how can they speed up that number, things like that. So I only have 5 classes left until I get my degree. So I'm super excited about that. I'm taking 3 this summer, and I'll be doing my practicum and 1 other Google class in the fall. So by December, I will be done. So now jumping into the content area, what kinds of support do public schools receive at our following levels? So at the local level for Moorhead, it's obviously the biggest one is property taxes through businesses and home ownership. And then we also have a PTA, we call it the PTAC, and they do a lot of fundraising for school-specific events like field trips, year-end community events, classroom supplies, guest speakers, things like that. At the state level, the policy about domain of choice, where enrollment can kind of vary, is dictated by the state rather than the national government. So the state kind of has that say in if students can open enroll, and if so, where and when, and things like that. So that is a very good support for public schools, that it's within the state level. And along with that, the 10th Amendment reserves power to states, which typically have favored public schools because that's the vast majority of schools. So they receive the most attention and flexibility with the 10th Amendment. And then at the federal level, Title I funds are a source of support for certain public schools. The big thing is that Title I funds are meant to add rather than replace funding. So if a school is really good at funding, but they qualify for Title I, they can't take away funding that they've already had locally. One benefit of the federal government and their funds is that they're optimized and stretched to do the most good with pre-tax dollars, instead of being taxed on the back end. And they are really good about filling the gaps in services that are required. They do the best they can to be like, okay, this is an immediate need, this has to be funded. And then finally, ESEA funding, sort of this optional funding, but it's not really optional because schools look at that number that they're willing to get from the government, and it's just too big to pass up. The caveat with that, though, is that you have to meet federal criteria, and you end up basically doing what the federal government wants you to do. Who is in charge at the local levels, or at the various levels, excuse me. So Brandon Lunick is our superintendent of our district, and his role is to work to achieve the goals and objectives of the school district, kind of that general mission statement. And then our PTAC is run by volunteers, and their objective is to serve people of the community, students, parents, teachers, and admin, to enhance the education process and provide a better learning environment for the students. At the state level, we have Mary Ricker for the Commissioner of Minnesota Department of Ed, and she works with our Governor Tim Walz in closing the achievement gap, improving educational outcomes, working on increasing student graduation, making sure that they're prepared for college, career, and life in the future. So that is her role as commissioner. At the state level, at the federal level, we have Betsy DeVos, and she is focused on equal opportunities for quality education for all students. She specifically focuses on vouchers and open enrollment and things like that. But overall, her goal is to have underserved children gain access to a quality education, regardless of where they live. So in terms of who has the most power over public education, well, yes, the 10th Amendment does allow the states to have the most amount of control. I personally would say that the federal level has the most pull in public education. While there is flexibility for states, a lot of the time the states really need that funding from the federal level, and there's criteria that has to be met to receive that funding. So the state will do whatever they can to get that funding, and sometimes that might mean compromising their own goals and mission just to get that funding, because usually it's a very high need. So in terms of the three components, number 6, for component 6.1, which focuses on the operational systems and school level governing, that is obviously a local level thing, because the specifics on implementation have to be fine-tuned to a local population. The state, it would be too broad for the state to try to micromanage that, and just as well as the federal level, they would not be able to get down to that finite of details. The local level knows what the community needs. For component 6.2, which is about data-informed resource planning, that would be a federal level influence, because data-informed decisions are usually very concrete, and data is pretty cut and dry, and they create these plans, and they expect the state and local levels to follow them or accommodate to their needs as necessary. And then finally, for component 6.3, which talks specifically about laws and rights and policies, that would be a state level influence. Local levels don't have that much power to write in those laws, and the specifics for a state-by-state basis would be too subjective and detailed for the federal level. So how does all of this support the educational success and well-being of each child and student? Overall, there's certainly room for improvement that I'm sure we all could agree on. But communication from the top down, obviously there's going to be disagreements, but this can actually be a benefit for students and teachers when it comes to ideology and progress. So the big idea is with disagreements, there's going to be friction and arguments, but with this friction is actually going to come progress and improvement. And then here I have my APA references alphabetically. I included all the ones that we were supposed to cite, as well as a couple, one on our superintendent, one on our PTAC policies, and then a few more from the Department of Ed, and then information on the MDE executive team. So again, my name is Austin Zollner, and I look forward to a great, very brief semester course with you guys. Thanks.